Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of December 2024. I hope you are well. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Before the reading begins, if it resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. The link for that is in the description box below. But let's get straight on with this, Taurus. So, can I have 3 cards for Taurus, please? Whoa. We have the Seven of Swords in reverse. Current energy for Taurus is... I slid out a little bit there. The Knight of Wands and the Eight of Pentacles. And what is coming towards Taurus for December, please? Wow. Okay. A little dog. It is the Star. I love this, Taurus. This is very, very cool. We have the Five of Cups at the bottom of the deck, but it is followed by the Wheel of Fortune. Now, before we get too far into this, the Five of Cups is a card that deals with grief and loss. But what I'm seeing here is some sort of upward reach. And I'll explain that in a second when I've got the clarifiers out on the table, because I think what's happening here for you, Taurus, this month is really, really significant. Interesting. Five of Cups again as we split the deck. Because it is both what's happening this month, but also the wider arc of what has been happening for you for a very long time. That's what I'm getting at. So let's have a look. I'll get some cards on the table and then I'll explain what I mean. So why is the Seven of... Yeah, there we are. Six of Wands. And the Three of Pentacles in reverse. Tell me about the Knight of Wands. Wow. Wheel of Fortune. Ace of Wands. The Emperor. And what about the Star card? Why is this here for Taurus, please? What's the Star here for Taurus? We have the Knight of Wands again. Interesting. And what else? We have the Hermit. Right. Four of Swords is at the bottom of the deck here. Now, there is no point in this reading at all. Well, there is a point in it, but I mean, there is no point in this reading at all where I feel anything other than absolute fucking delight for you, Taurus. And I want to make that really, really clear. The Five of Cups, this card that talks to stuck emotions and a sense of grief, a sense of loss. This is very, very clearly representing to me where you have come from. Like I said, there's an overarching story that I can see here playing out, but for some reason it seems to be really, really intense right now. But let's have a look at these cards and I'll tell you what I mean. So, these cards here are your recent past. And that's why I say the energy seems to be very, very focused right now. And by recent past, I mean it could be this morning when you got out of bed, or any time up to about 6 weeks ago. Something here has shifted for you. Because we have the Seven of Swords in reverse, and that's a card that can talk about a certain amount of dishonesty, right, and deceit. And the way that I tend to read the cards has that, rather than you being affected by the deceit and dishonesty of somebody else, this is more about the deceit and dishonesty that goes on the subconscious realm. We're talking about your inner critic. We're talking about the negative self-talk that has plagued Taurus for so long, for such a long time. This seems to have had the effect over the years of kind of dragging you into this space of never quite feeling like you were enough for anyone, actually. Constantly needing to work just a little bit harder than everybody else just to try and maintain where you were, whether that was by way of status or within a relationship, within a work setting, everywhere. It just seems like everything has been a bit of an uphill struggle for you. Now, the benefit that you've had is the ability that you have to work hard, right, and endure. I would say out of all of the fixed signs, the endurance of Taurus is something really to be, bards should be writing stories about. Songs. They do songs, not stories. Poets. Having poetry written about you. There's a certain tenacity in Taurus that you do see across the other signs, But because it is fixed earth, I mean, we're talking about things that are really, really deeply rooted with you. So where there have been issues that have been caused by grief or a sense of loss, and this Five of Cups is it's more complex than it appears, as you would expect from a card that is representing Scorpio, right? Because there's always the surface level interpretation that we can apply to any tarot card, actually, but particularly Scorpio cards. And then there are levels and layers beneath that. Now, with the Five of Cups, the obvious interpretation is grief, is loss, for sure. But quite often with the Five of Cups, we're also looking to, remember, it's the preceding card to the Six of Cups, and the Six of Cups is the past, it is childhood, it is all these things. A kind of grief that was formed very, very early in life because you did not get what you need, right? What you needed. Because it's a card that is numbered 5, it talks about a certain amount of instability, where anybody with Taurus as their major placements craves, needs, desires, but definitely needs that sense of stability in order to find their own strength within that. Instead, what actually happens is Taurus looks around at this very unstable place that they find themselves as a child and goes, well, if nobody else is going to bring the security and the stability, I guess I'd better take that on. I guess I would best be the responsible one here, because then at least somebody's doing it. I can't tell you how many readings I've done for Taurus over the years, but it's going to number in the thousands. And it seems to be part of the Taurus experience to have to grow up a little bit too young. Now, what that brings with it is the grief of lost youth, the grief of innocence, the grief of the ability to be able to just play. When you have to think about who's going to put food on the table, who's going to cook dinner, who's going to clean this, who's going to do that, who's going to do the other, right? It's come up so frequently in any reading that I've done with Taurus, it can't be ignored, right? It's part of the learning journey of Taurus, right? Now, as you get later on in life, you start to notice that Tauruses like to be very particular about their environment. And sometimes, when we go right to the other extreme, Tauruses can, in their shadow presentation, be extremely controlling and extremely rigid, right? We understand that this is the case. But coming from a place of loss, in that layered way that this Five of Cups is talking about, right? Instability where stability was required. What we have here is an arc of something that is playing out both across your life in the last few years, but very, very specifically over these couple of months that this reading would cover. So, we have what's going on in December here. We have your current energy where you find yourself right now here, and we have the last 6 weeks or so over here. So we're covering about 2.5 months in total. And everything seems to be firing up in exactly the right way for you, Taurus. Now, I've been watching you change over the course of the last 5 years that I've been here on YouTube. And I think now a lot of the things that you are doing, you couldn't even have imagined yourself doing 5 years ago, right? Maybe it was because at that point you were still very much fixed in that unstable energy of grief. But this Four of Swords, representing meditation and a kind of mental peace, this has been your gift to yourself. And the more that you have gifted this to yourself, the more your external world has changed. So over here in the recent past, something has come along that has challenged a deeply held belief that you've had for a very long time, particularly around the idea of success. Now, I remember talking to you, Taurus, 2020, 2021, talking about how it was safe for you to be able to move away from the herd if necessary. And then there was the whole, remember that you are a bull, not a cow, and all these kind of things, right? The sense of you needing to kind of go along with what everybody else was doing, being something that featured a little less in where Taurus was going versus where they had been. And I think even actually up till like last year, there were points where Taurus was looking for a map. Where do I go next? What's the next thing to do? And I kind of pointed out, Taurus, you don't have a map. Like, you're writing the map. This is what you're responsible for. And finally, something in the last 6 weeks has shifted your internal narrative, the internal deceit, which said that you are not successful, that you have to do everything in a group, that you can never take any kind of credit for something done individually. Now, Taurus is really interesting for this because, and I have noticed this about Tauruses, where they have done something on their own, they will immediately try and credit as many people as possible in the contribution that they have made to it, right? And I think that this is really interesting because on the face of it, it looks like, and this is definitely part of it, that they don't want anybody to feel left out. If anybody's played any kind of minor role in it, like, they get an acknowledgement. That's really important because there have been times in the past where Taurus didn't get that after contributing, huge amounts of stuff to creative projects, relationships, work stuff, all that kind of thing. So Taurus tends to be very proper about that. But I do think that for a while, it was more comfortable for Taurus to define their own success, or only allow a feeling of success, if it was within the almost anonymity of a group situation. They didn't want to take credit for something themselves. Now, whatever's gone on with you in the recent past, you feel to me like you've been disavowed of the notion that you could really attribute your success to anybody else, because it's come by way of sheer fucking hard work, sheer tenacity, sheer dedication, commitment and application to something that you've been seeing through from inception to completion. And I'm here for this all day long because I love it. You can't really pretend anymore that you are not successful, that you are not strong, that you are not capable. We all have these little lies that we tell ourselves, and the negative inner critic is very, very busy for most of us. These cards here. And by and large, most of us listen to that. Strength reversed, right? We allow ourselves to be drained away. And the Hierophant, right? We try and maintain the status quo rather than pushing ourselves out of our comfort zone. But something here has changed. There's a more even distribution of your energy. There's a more balanced distribution of your energy. And I think that you are... Oh, how did a Taurus that I know put it recently? I refuse to be limited. Oh, I forget what it goes. I refuse to be limited by, and I forget what the thing was. But I think all Tauruses are getting to the point where they refuse to be limited by the voice that is inside of their head, that's narrating everything all of the time, telling them that they need to stay small, stay the same, not make any kind of, movements in any direction. Like, there's a deep, profound healing that has gone on recently. And rather than being stiff and rigid and stuck in one place, there's a fluidity that has come in. We talked about this. It's been on its way in for quite a long time, good year now. But you refuse to give away your power and your potential to something that now has proven to be demonstrably false. And that's your inner critic, Taurus. Look at this. You have absolutely liberated yourself from this inner critic. Now, please do understand that this doesn't mean that it's never ever going to witter anything at you at all ever again. But what you've developed is the ability to be able to turn the volume down on that, because you understand that essentially it's talking shit, right? It's somebody else's voice. It's a pattern that is repeating from childhood. It's a script that you might have heard, a number of times while you were growing up. Maybe it's all the time when you were growing up. And you've completely disproved it. Even you now need to accept your very real success, individual success, to such an extent that maybe even your subconscious is starting to pay attention. This is huge. And then we move into your current energy, and you feel extremely fired up, Taurus. Let's not put too fine a point on it, right? We have Sagittarius, fire. We have Sagittarius, fire. We have the Ace of Wands, and we have the Emperor, which is Aries. There is a lot of creativity that is flowing within you, and it's ready to start on something. Now, for some of you, you might have felt like, well, whatever's gone on here and whatever way I have proved my negative inner critic wrong, like maybe that was the end of the story for a while. But the cards say, no, that really is just the beginning of the story. Because whenever we have Jupiterian cards, and Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, we have opportunity. We have, a lucky happenstance, if you will. But it's kind of right place, right time sort of energy. And that seems to be really popping here for you right now. So we've got the Sagittarius card of the Knight of Wands, which is planting you very much in the here and now. There's no being afraid of what's going on in the future, and there's no being anchored to the past. You are right here, right now, and you're looking around, right? What are the opportunities? What is the next thing that I can invest my energy into? What is the next thing that I can commit to so that I can see it from inception to completion? I'm ready and I'm looking for it. And more than that, I'm willing to take on more and go bigger and be much more expansive than ever I allowed myself to be in the past, because I've just proven to myself that I can do it. And then we have the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune is a greatly supportive energy that is showing up at this time. Again, talking about opportunities, talking about being in the right place at the right time, talking about, the right conversations with the right people, information getting to the right ears, visibility, being put in front of the right people at the right time. And here we have the Ace of Wands, also talking about opportunity, creative endeavors, new creative projects. It seems like whatever's gone on for you recently, Taurus, it really has lit a rocket underneath you. And more than that, with this Emperor card here, you are allowing yourself to think strategically bigger than you have ever done before, because you've just proven to yourself that you can. And this is really, really significant. Now, the Eight of Pentacles, in addition to speaking of questions of what I will commit to and, what I can invest in, and it's a card that talks about power and how we can get our power. The Eight of Pentacles also talks about our great work. So if we can detach a little from the success of whatever it is that you've achieved in the 3D right now and look at the wider arc of what's going on here, it's like your great work is the thing that you are applying yourself to. So back in about 2020-ish, I remember a Taurus commenting on one of the videos and saying that they thought Tauruses were kind of addicted to self-work. And I can't remember what I replied at the time, but I kind of slightly took a slightly different view to just being addicted to the work. I can't even remember what I talked about, actually, to be honest. But it felt like it was coming from a place of, rather than a sort of desperate need to try and be better, which is kind of how I took that addicted to self-work thing. It became, how can I be most productive, most involved, most invested in a way that pushes my soul's development on, so that I can be the kind of person that can allow myself to take up space and do the big things that I'm here to do. We talked quite a lot about this year, about how it seemed to be that Taurus was kind of strategically relocating itself in the future. So that, you know, whatever this impending chaos is that we're absolutely balls deep in at the moment, actually, to be honest, and it just gets more so from here. You know, as things break down and order is lost, and that being something that you would think Taurus would have a massive issue with, would find incredibly destabilizing. Instead, it seems that Taurus has strategically relocated itself over here and gone, well, if it's all going to over here and it's all chaotic, then I'm going to put myself here and I am going to build the new thing. I am going to bring the order. I am going to bring the structure that one would expect from a Taurus, and I'm going to have everything ready for when people start coming across from the chaos to whatever the new kind of world is over here, because Tauruses are builders. Most Tauruses are blessed with both vision and the ability and the capabilities of bringing that vision to life. The only thing that's really been lacking has been the confidence, but you seem so fired up now that there is really very little. Well, there isn't really anything that's too big for you at this point, Taurus. That's what I want to say. Because the Emperor card is about truly being in control of your stuff. And I was talking to Aries quite a lot about the nature of the Emperor card in their reading for December. Because one of the things that people don't really talk about that much in terms of the Emperor card is the fact that it is the King of Kings. Each one of the kings is a different facet of the Emperor's skill set, if you will, right? And this is how he becomes an archetype that can occupy this elevated position, because it's like, it's the culmination of a lot of fairly good big energy all coming together in one archetype. Now, as the King of Pentacles, you're kind of accustomed to being the King of Pentacles. You're pretty good at being the King of Pentacles. But the other kings have something to offer. The King of Wands will give you stamina, inspiration, charisma, courage, bravery, all these kind of things. The King of Swords will give you the ability to think critically about things. And the King of Cups will enable you to master your emotions rather than them mastering you. What's happened here is a graduation, Taurus, whereby you're not simply vibing around in a King of Pentacles kind of energy. You are now achieving Emperor status. And so the question naturally follows, like, what do you intend to do next? Because you've just proven you can do just about anything. I think whatever Tauruses have been involved in the last 6 weeks or so, it's leveled you up really, really hard. And it's not just been about the project or the move or the job or any of these things. It's like the work that you have done on pushing your soul on to the next level is extraordinary. And there is literally no reason now that you have the confidence of the King of Wands and the clear thinking of the King of Swords and the emotional balance of the King of Cups why you shouldn't continue to build and create. Because the Emperor is a strategist, because he's a tactician, he always has a plan. And I think that December for you is a lot about deciding what the next stage of development actually is. Because we've got the Star card here. Now, Star is the card of Aquarius, and that is an energy that is sometimes a little irritating to Taurus, right? Because it squares it. The energy of Leo and Aquarius, both square Taurus and square Scorpio, they cause friction. And whenever there's friction, there's a need to kind of move and grow and evolve so that we can kind of get away from what's uncomfortable over there, right? We adjust in the face of this energy. But even leaving aside the fact that the Star is the card of Aquarius, what we have here is a card that represents our highest goals, hopes, dreams, and aspirations. You've already proven to yourself that you can do something over here, right? You've leapt into a new cycle. You're absolutely fired up. You've got the enthusiasm. You've got everything that you need, and you are truly doing God's work with yourself at the moment. So the question is, what was off the table at some point in the past that is now achievable by you, and not just in a kind of abstract way, like, or in an intellectual appreciation way. This is like, what do you know that you could do now that you didn't know you could do before? When I said it felt like there was a reaching up going on here, Taurus, it's like we started from here, or you started from here at least 5 years ago, maybe more for most of you, right? And from this place, through the work that you have done on yourself, through the very difficult and challenging times that you've experienced, you've been pushing yourself and pushing yourself and pushing yourself and allowing yourself to change in ways that have felt deeply uncomfortable to you. And now you're at such a point of mastery, it's like, well, what's next? What can I do now? Because there's something very, very expansive about the way that you are moving. Now, we've got the Knight of Wands underneath here, and we've got the Hermit here. This is a card of Virgo. The Knight of Wands we've already talked about, but we can also talk about it in terms of fun and adventure. You know, like, what do you want to do? Because this newfound fluidity that Taurus has means that you're more likely to kind of put yourself out there and do things that you wouldn't have dared do now, and have some fun while you're doing it. But this Hermit card is interesting, because the Hermit card says we need to go within. I don't think that there's any issue at all with Taurus being able to build stuff, right? Anything outside of you, you can build it, you know, work hard enough at it, and something amazing will show up. But this month is about really leaning into what is going on in here, because I think it's time for you to tap into something that you've probably held on to for a very long time. This is what it feels like. This is a month for going within and asking yourself, what was once the daydream? What was once maybe even a pipe dream that you thought you would never be able to achieve? Like, what did you used to dream about when you kind of zoned out? We all zone out at times, right? Where was it that your mind went? Because in the past, in the not so distant past, when you'd zone out, you might find yourself lapsing into overthinking. And where your mind would go would be potential catastrophe and how can we avoid it, right? Particularly as it relates to other people, because he's felt this profound sense of responsibility for all people in your AOE, if you will. But I'm talking about something that is even further back than that. And for some of you, this might be quite difficult to kind of tap into, because we're talking about going back to a time where the responsibilities and the duties and the burden weren't yet entirely present within your consciousness, right? Where things were free and easy and fun was the order of the day. Because somewhere within that, there is a dream that you had of something that you wanted to do. And I do think this whole month is about making contact with that. Oh, good Lord, I've got all these cards. Deep down, look at these deeply emotional cards that we've got going on here. Queen of Cups, the Moon, the Chariot card. These, for me, are all three cards of Cancer, which generally means complicated emotions, right? But there's something very nurturing about the process of going within and finding what that thing was, right? What the thought of something that really lit you up when you were young. Like, I know I'll have made it when I can do this. It could be traveling. It could be it could be all sorts of things, right? There's something incredibly nurturing about pulling that out this month and giving it a kind of weight that it's never had. Now we've got the Five of Wands there. That is Saturn in Leo, and that can sometimes talk about strife and conflict and these kind of things. But it also talks about competition. Now, I don't feel like you, Taurus, are particularly in competition with anyone, right? I think that you've realised you don't need to go there with that, right? You don't measure yourself against anybody other than you. But it can talk about the drive that comes, in a Saturn sort of way to see something right up to its completion. And I feel like there are things that are changing this month, or at least the seed of the change is starting. When you identify what it is, the pipe dream, the thing that you never thought would happen, and you kind of, you turn your mind to it and you go, do you know what? I actually think I can do that. The instability of action is around the movement, is around the fluidity, is around the not doing the same thing day in, day out. It's like, no, I can actually mix things up. I can push myself on, I can drive myself on because I have something really, really important that's starting to crystallize in front of me. And it is the intent that whatever this thing was in the past that I used to daydream about, I am actually going to bring it into this material realm. I am actually going to create this. Now, the devil, he is absolutely, the material world is his dominion. And you often see the devil show up for artists in combination with something like the High Priestess, because we're drawing down that inspiration through the High Priestess, and then the devil can give it form. I think this month there is something that it was seeded a long time ago, actually, but something that you're newly connecting with, that bit by bit over the course of this month, you're like, well, I actually literally can do this. I hadn't thought about it until now, but I can do this. I can give it form. I can bring it into this realm. And it's another thing that I can do. You seem to me to be setting a challenge for yourself now. Reaching up. From this point here, reaching up with the confidence to back up what you're doing. And this is a newfound confidence, but it's been a long time in the making. And I think by the end of December, you're going to have a plan that thrills you just a little bit. Right? This sort of thing used to scare you, not so much now. It's like, no, I can do this, I can make this, I can bring this into being. I'm really, really excited about this. So I'm going to go over to the extended now. We're going to pull this apart a little bit and see what's actually going on, because we can see what's going on in terms of the trajectory of your soul and this expansion of you to make you bigger and bigger and bigger and more capable. But we can also see it happening right in front of you, like in a way that you can kind of show to other people too. I love this. 2024 has been at points kind of challenging for Taurus, but I think from the outset you adopted the right mentality, right from the beginning of the year, and you've just kept pushing, like pushing yourself, pushing yourself on again and again and again. The benefit is clear, you seeing this. But there are more benefits to be had, and I think you're getting ready to start 2025 with a bang. I love this. Right, I'm going to go away. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.